Yes.
All right. Shall we begin, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Combined Council Connections, sponsored by the Residents Council and the SUSCOM Committee, because it's Earth Week, and as you, I'm sure, realize, we've been making an effort to celebrate Earth Day in many ways. And what better way than to talk about food?
Food is life.
Food is life, there you go. And we're especially honored to have Amy Mcintyre, who is the new-ish, not quite so new, head of our dining services, is that correct?
Yes.
To talk a little bit about what she has done before coming here and what she has found when she got here, and what she can look forward to, or what we all can look forward to, since we all benefit by the work of the dining staff that we've worked with for many years, ate with for many years. So I should have introduced myself. I'm George Brown, and I'm a member of the Sustainability Committee, and previously on the Residents Council. And we have a nice audience here that I think can't be seen because this is being broadcast for YouTube. And I'm told this will be available on YouTube starting tomorrow. We will have a question period at the end, and those who want to have questions will need to come up here so that you can be seen, right? Okay, with that introduction, Amy, how is it that what is your background that allowed you to think that this might be a good fit for you?
I think this is a perfect fit for me. At a young age, I loved everything food. Cooking dinner, 13, 14 years old. My mother and my dad both worked full time. When they got home, dinner was on the table. We were very old school in my house. Children worked. Then I went to a culinary arts program right in high school. They did a culinary arts through BOCES Technical Center. I got a 1,000-hour certificate in culinary arts through high school, which is a trade that most children, these days don't take advantage of. And there's a shift in our world, our country, that college is a dime a dozen. These degrees, but trades are amazing. So right out of high school, this thing is horrible. Okay. Right out of high school, I went into a kitchen. I went to the Hyde Park Nursing Home. I worked there as a cook supervisor at 18 years old. I was there for 3 years. From the Hyde Park Nursing Home, I moved on to the Thompson House, which is another nursing home, another health center, and that is connected to Northern Dutchess Hospital. That's a private nursing home. I had a $500,000 food cost, it was at the time. So this was in like 97, 98. From there, I had 2 children. They're now 24 and 23, my oldest 2. So my lifestyle changed, and opening up a kitchen at 5:30 in the morning wasn't feasible with 2 small children. So I ended up going front of the house. Front of the house meaning into service management, restaurant management. I worked at places like Alloy's, Cosimo's, the Hyde Park Brewery. I was at Cosimo's, and I wasn't loving it. And I met this woman, and she introduced me to corporate dining. So then I went into IBM's, where I was the front of the house manager and the accountant in Fishkill. I started, and then I moved to Poughkeepsie, and that's where we did corporate dining. The IBMs, if you've ever been there, especially in Poughkeepsie, the patented engineers that are building 705, it reminds me of like a throughway hits like fine dining. That's what they do for IBMers. Like, it was amazing. So I ran that. I was there for years, and then I stumbled upon a place called the Rhinecliff. It was in 2009. I ended up going to the Rhinecliff. I started there as a second job in 2008. I don't know if you guys remember 2008, but there was a lot of things going on. My husband had lost his job. My husband at the time had lost his job. So I was working full-time at IBM and waiting tables at this place called the Rhinecliff, patio dining, right? And I had a 6-month-old and a 10 and 11-year-old. So if you think that I can't do anything, exactly.
But there's no 10 or 11-year-olds here.
No,
But
not at all.
But we
It's-
can be just as ornery.
Oh, they're worse. Every day of the week, 10 and 11-year-olds are worse. So that being said, I stumbled upon the Rhinecliff, and literally I was just serving. The owner was out of the country. He was working on his visa, full of transparency, this British gentleman, James. So James comes back and he's like, who are you? And I tried so hard to stay under the radar. Just do my IBM, go there and wait tables a few nights a week. I was the only one working. My husband was out of work 2 years. Previous husband, we'll just keep talking about that. That being said, he was like, oh no, I have to figure out how to make more money out of you. He's like, your personality, are you kidding me? So then he saw my background, he went over my resume, and I ended up leaving IBM and coming to the Rhinecliff full time. That probably happened with about 6 months. Because the Rhinecliff was a beautiful, amazing. If anyone's ever been to the Rhinecliff hotel, banquet facility, we called it a country boutique hotel. So I had 9 suites. I had a 120-person banquet hall room upstairs, and then we had a full restaurant downstairs with the patio dining. It was seasonal, so in the winter you could see tumbleweeds coming through. But come spring, when I could open that patio, everyone and their mother's brother, sister came to eat. So I ended up taking the general manager position at the Rhinecliff, and I ran the whole thing. But because of that, that was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I would go in, 11 o'clock in the morning and not get home till 1 in the morning. And then I would do Sunday brunch. So I'd probably get home about 6 o'clock on a Sunday. Sometimes we had weddings on Sundays, but I was exhausted. And that's not good work-life balance. And my children were at ages where they needed me. I also added on because I have an 11-year-old also. So I added another child up. Why not? So I decided I think it was like, I don't even remember how long, because I was in 2018, right before wedding season, I gave my notice and I walked away from the Rhinecliff. And I stumbled upon Vassar Brothers Medical Center. They had a position for a patient services manager. I didn't know what that was, but I figured, let me see. So what that means is that I managed anything to do with the room service program. So anything to do with the patients eating. That was my job. Now we were feeding for breakfast, lunch, and dinner about 300. We did about 300 meals a day. So you're talking 900 meals. And we ran it like room service at a hotel. So just like you guys would go call down, a woman, but it just happened to be women in this office would answer the phone, put the order through, and the ticket would print on a tray line. Your soups, sauces, stuff like that was already made, but for that, everything else was cooked and prepared. So if you're ever at the hospital, just so you know, they work really hard down in that kitchen. With all the modified diets, keep that in mind. The luxury of IL is that we don't have the modified diets. But at the hospital, we had lots. So I went there in 2018 in July, and I loved everything about it. It was a new career move. It had taken a lot of my nursing home background, my restaurant background, put it all together in this great job. And then something like COVID happened. And the hospitals across the country, across the world, got hit hard with COVID. And the morale was just so low that you weren't excited to come into work anymore. You see too much, you know too much, and you become complacent, you're not excited about your job. I couldn't even go up on the floors to talk to people. We all know I like to talk. So I started looking for something else. And literally it was a late night, and for whatever reason, I never took my alerts off for Indeed, and they would send me random job postings. And I stumbled upon Sodexo was hiring for this place called Woodland Ponds. Now I had remembered years ago, my mother had taken my grandmother here. They were looking for her to come live here. She had a little bit of cash and she was losing it a little, and they brought her over, and she ended up not coming here. She ended up going somewhere else. So I Googled the place and I applied. Next day, I forgot all about it. A recruiter calls me and I kind of blew her off because I'm really loyal to where I am. I had been at the hospital for 4 years. And then all of a sudden the district manager calls me and and she wants an interview. And I'm thinking, why are all these people calling me? I'm not that special. Honestly. And when I came here, finally, I had an interview with Michelle and Bridget. And I saw the place, and they told me about what independent, because there's no CCRCs in this area, so I had nothing to compare to. My aunt lives in the Villages. I mean, that's about it in Florida. That's about as close to me to understanding what this community is. So when I came here and Michelle and Bridget explained to me what you were, what we are, and explained to me the health center, I looked at my resume and I thought, and that's why I took the time to go over it with all of you, is every job that I have done has brought me here. Everything that I've done, from working in the nursing home, to working in fine dining, to working in like places like Cosmos, very fast-paced places that do a really consistent good business, to old school Italian places like Alloy's or Hyde Park Brewery, where we had lots of banquets. I have executed well over 500 weddings in my lifetime. Well over. You know how many wedding cakes I've cut?
So, to cut it a little
Yeah, you're good.
a little bit here, buddy Mike, you're a perfect fit for this place.
I realize that right
But
away.
is there such a thing as a perfect fit? You arrive here, and what do you find?
No, staffing shortages are going across the country. So I always we have this thing that you can talk about everything that's going on without mentioning the staffing shortage, because but that was a huge thing. So I walked into a dining room that opened up with staff that had never waited tables before. And most had gotten hired during COVID, so they had never even really been in a dining room before. So it was literally reinventing the wheel. But the dining room was already open. So I had to, they were working already. And you all eat it there, so you know. So that happened. A lot of overproduction of food was going on. Some of the health center, I had a lot of issues with the health center. I've been spending a lot of time. I wasn't sure why IL and AL and skilled were all getting different kind of meals, different preparations. I mean, if you're gonna have Easter bread, AL is gonna have Easter bread. And I don't understand the divide. I think it all should be one. The idea is that, you go from IL to AL to skilled, so why wouldn't it across the board be cohesive? So that's something I'm dealing with.
This is what you found. So what changes can you instigate or want to instigate now that you're not quite so new in the job?
No, not quite. Okay, so right off the bat, I was here about a week, and I closed my first night closing. So closing means right after IL is done, and I watched the chefs wheel this big cart into the dish room. I mean, you can't even fathom how many pounds of food was being thrown away. I literally lost it. I was like, what the? And what is this? Don't you? And I walked away, I went in my office, and I did this whole, brought myself back, took some deep breaths, and I came back out, and I had an education for the chefs, and I realized that they weren't doing what we refer to as pre and post-production sheets. Meaning they weren't taking, if I sell pork loin tonight, and I know that 40 people, so now we have sheets where I know how much is prepped, I know how much is used, I know how much is, saved for the next day. I also have records of how many people ate pork, so how many we sold. So I can go back, we have a 5-week cycle, as you're all familiar with, and I can go back and look and see that on such and such day, 40 pork were sold, but it went up against chicken marsala, which isn't a heavy hitter. So we have these numbers now. So that's why I've instituted pre and post-production sheets. The waste is, there's really none.
And you have the amount of stuff thrown away that is composted diminished?
We did the reach, well, that's the thing, our composting numbers are very low, and I said, good, I'm happy. Because we're not throwing away the food. As long as I did a retraining on the composting also, because I guess the staff, they like to once in a while throw a butter pat in there, things like that. Because if you put all that stuff on your plates, think about that. And they're just scraping, sometimes a butter pat gets in there. And we were getting like nasty grams from the composting company because of this reason.
Setting the plastic in around
Yes.
butter pat.
So I retrained the staff. But the attitude was, because we were getting nasty grams, let's not compost at all. So I get it, but it's unacceptable. So now we trained, we retrained, and we're composting. But that's why a lot of people don't like the reservation system. But the reservation system makes me be able to control food production. I know exactly how many people max will my dining room fill, and I will never overproduce, and it will eliminate waste. And that's the biggest,
And the result has been what?
It's been excellent. We've reduced waste, and then we're also reusing things. So if something they used to prep in large batches and reheat. Once you reheat, there's standards. So in a kitchen like this, we are run like a health center. Once there's a reheat, that cannot be reused. So they were reheating in large batches. So now we've minimized the batches. There's small batching everything out. So it's not a reheat, so they get the 3 days out of it. So there was a lot of education on the cooks, side. And the biggest thing is just getting them excited about cooking again. When you go into the field that we're in, you have to love it. I don't know any cooks or chefs or people who go into that field and don't love to cook. So it's getting, through COVID times, everyone became very complacent, and I'm just trying to get my chefs excited about cooking again.
And he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also instituted that Simply to Go. That's in the pub. There's that open cooler across from the coffee station, and in there is items that you can purchase. What those items are is, we do a lot of room service and takeout. We usually make 2 to 3 extra of each item for takeout. It's never heated, it's a cold like you guys get for takeout. We do that because sometimes people forget, honestly. They forget to order, and I don't like to turn people away if they want a meal. Sometimes they forget what they ordered, something happened. So they were throwing that food away because they were like, we don't need it. So so now you can see that's in the coolers. So every day, the soup from the day before, we chill it correctly, and we repurpose it. We put it in it's called an open air screen cooler. All of the meals that are left over, they've never been heated. It's just like the takeout from the day before. I mean, that's big business, meal prep. That's a huge initiative that people are making a lot of money doing meal prep. So that's basically what I'm doing for you in that cooler. If you have a really good meal the day before, you can go into that cooler. You don't feel like coming down to my dining room, and I also reduce the price a little. So that's another initiative that we did to reduce food waste.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff to take in. But the bottom line is that we collectively look upon reducing our compost load. As you, I'm sure, know, that was been a major issue from the get-go of the Sustainability Committee practically 2 years ago, I guess. We're very anxious that all of the residents in independent living bring all their compost without the little plastic baggies around them to the composting bins at the base of the south and north wings. And that's something we need to keep going on, and we've in fact talked about examining that question because there are still some people who don't compost. And it's work, it requires work, no question. So one thing that when we talked to Michelle about was that she had learned that Sodexo, which employs you, by the way, right?
Yes, our management team.
It's the management company that we have a long-standing financial relationship with, and they, in fact, hired Amy and her predecessor, right?
Yes.
And so we are hand in glove with Sodexo, and I think it was Michelle who learned that Sodexo has had a number of sustainability initiatives that they have been working on, and we asked you to look into that and see what you could find. And I gather you have. And what did you find?
Well, I'm just going to tell you about 2 today. So one, reducing our carbon emissions. So the idea is, and it helps with supply chain, because I mean, you've all heard about this, the issues with us getting certain products in. So Sodexo has teamed up with our food provider. Right now we're using a company called Cisco. And the idea is that you used to be able to get salmon from 5 different companies. Now Sodexo and Cisco, they only get salmon from 1 company. That is 4 less trucks on the road. That is 1 company, 1 major company that we're getting the salmon from, in comparison to 5 different purveyors. That is reducing our carbon emissions, but it's also helping with supply chain. Because when you were dealing with small, like the 5 companies, we weren't being able to get the product consistently. So that's one thing that they've done. We also have a huge plant-based initiative, Sodexo does. So we're using the Beyond Impossible. That is, the company that we're using. And you and I talked about this. We've been introducing slowly some plant-based items. So you already know that we have the burgers, we have ground meat, we're bringing in sausage products. We did a pulled oats pork last week. We brought in an egg product last Sunday. Ina at the Q&A stood up and told me how great the eggless egg was. So the plant-based products. And we're going to do, because you and I had talked about this, so I got a date, at the next complimentary happy hour, which is May 12th. You know how we always put food out? We're going to do a plant-based item tasting. These are all products that Sodexo is currently, they've been promoting plant-based meals for years.
I didn't know this, but I had imagined someday we would have a Beyond Burger hamburger in one hand and a regular old beef hamburger that we all grew up on the other hand, and don't label them and see if you can tell which is which.
I would love to do that. That would be fun. We could. What we we should do? You know how we do wine tasting?
Yes,
we should do. So the idea is
burger tasting.
Let's have fun with that. I mean, we're gonna do something on this May 12th, but we could even have fun with that. I could run that station. Let's do that, because the idea is that the concern was that if you're not vegetarian, you're not vegan. It's to get you to try these items, because we're very set in our ways. We know what ground beef tastes like. I'm not going to try that. And if you're ordering it for dinner, that stinks if you don't enjoy it. So we're less likely to try the meatless meatloaf for our entree choice at dinner. But if I give it to you complimentary at a happy hour with a glass of wine, I think we'll all try it.
Well, we can't have the glass of wine clouding our scientific experiment.
Everything tastes better. Everything tastes better with wine. Everything tastes better with wine.
What was I going to say? Well, this is amazing. You only briefly touched on vegetables. And no, there's only 10% of us here who are vegetarian or vegans, as per the survey that we conducted a month or 2 ago. There is no intention of trying to convert anybody who is not a vegetarian to become a vegetarian. But all the science is showing, and I just read another article today on this, that a larger percentage of your food in vegetables will reduce colorectal cancer, liver cancer, and a range of other conditions. And so it's better for your health if you can have a certain percentage more of your meal being vegetables rather than meat. And one other thing about meat, if you don't mind, since I'm on it, and this is my topic, in doing the research for the panel called Fixed Food out here, maybe some of you looked at that one with the belching cow, and here is the designer of the belching cow over here. I found that there are 1 billion cows in the world, 1 B with a B, and there's only 7.7 billion people. So the cows are right up there, they're bigger than we are, so they're on a mass basis, they are very large. And that's nice, and cows are sweet and all that, but they do take up a lot of land, a lot of water, a lot of feed, a lot of pesticides, sometimes herbicides, and they are collectively contributing to something like 18 or 19% of greenhouse gas productions in the world. That's a big percentage. So down the line, maybe we can talk about somewhat beef reduction. Maybe not. We'll see.
Well, I'm going to bring to the dining committee on May 3rd, because I like to go through them because they are my friends. We're going to do Meatless Mondays. That's something that we want to bring on, do Meatless Mondays. I mean, that could be pastas too, so it wouldn't mean, well, what? Tuesday? Oh, I know that. On May 3rd, right here, dining committee. This is coming up. The dining committee, I'm going to go bring the Meatless Mondays ITS. So I just want to bring it to the dining committee for them to look it over. We also are, so the new menus are starting. We have spring and summer menus. And those menus are going to be more, we've been working really hard on them to bring in some of your old favorites and some new stuff, but the idea is that they're cohesive, that they're practical purposes for menu items. Meaning, if I bring in a case of leeks, and I can only bring in a 20-pound minimum of a case of leeks, just to give you an idea of how it works. And I only have it on the menu once. What happens to those leeks if I don't use all 20 pounds? Right, and that's unacceptable for me. So I've been spending a lot of time on these new menus. One, because I want you to be happy with them, but also so that they are practical purposes for our menu items, so that it eliminates or reduces our waste, because that is the most important thing to me. And I mentioned post-production sheets earlier, but that's all an initiative through Sodexo. So I get all of that. We have paperwork that that the chefs have to fill out every day. There are pre-production and post-production sheets. Those are all an initiative through Sodexo, so that we can watch those numbers. So your menus are coming, and we are going to look into doing Meatless Mondays. I would love that. And I know that we have a kitchen tour tomorrow that I have about 4 or 5 signups for. What? More? I love it. So if anybody here did not know about that, that's at 11 o'clock tomorrow. You can sign up at Concierge, and I don't care how many I have. Because I think it's really good for everyone in here to understand just how the quality of the products that we bring in. And that I have a walk-in cooler. The whole right side is just all fresh vegetables. I mean, just alone today, I was chomping on parsnips, carrots, because I love meat, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm very health conscious. So I eat a lot of vegetables. We have a split pea soup that I know is sitting on my desk right now that I cannot wait to indulge in. There's fresh fruit in the coolers. But I've heard many times now that we bring in frozen items. Well, I'd like you to see my freezer, and then you would know I don't have room for that. It's so small. And that everything, all of our produce comes in fresh. And we use local purveyors. There's a place called Baldor, a little closer to the city, and a place called Red Barn, which is right up the road. So you are getting fresh, local produce, as local as it, and they go, once the season is right, these companies deal with local, farms. So anyone who wants to sign up for that food tour, I know that I was making the dining committee, but just so you can see the kind of products that we have, what we're bringing in, and how we do things in those kitchens, so that when you're sitting down in that dining room and talking to your guest, you let them know the quality products that we're bringing in.
On that note, I'm wondering whether we should take a few questions. There just might be a few questions for Amy. I'd ask you to come forward and take this mic and look into the camera.
One of the things that we really enjoy about summer here is the local corn. Will you be able to get the local corn on the cob?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. We've had corn recently on the menu, and it's been amazing. I know it's not local, but it's fresh. It's corn that's coming in. Obviously, it's growing somewhere, because we've had corn on the cob in the 5-week cycle, and it's been outstanding, because I guess they were buying that frozen, and that's not acceptable.
There's a question over here.
How'd you come up?
Yes, you have to come up, because otherwise you won't be spotted on the YouTube.
We want to see you. We want to see you.
So I want to know what keeps you up at night.
I don't know, is it the 4 children, 2 dogs, 2 cats, the fact that I'm a single mom, and I have a big house all by myself? everyone at Woodland Pond has been wonderful. I've definitely, have encountered just a small handful who are frustrated or irritated and took that out on me, But that's not really about me, it predates me. And I speak to a lot of you individually, and it's slow and steady, okay? I am not going to make false promises to any of you. I have a lot of work to do. I have been doing a lot of work. There's not one person in this room who cannot tell me you've seen improvements, because I know about the improvements. But I know that there are so many more things that I want to improve upon, and I'm gonna do that. So what keeps me up at night is, and usually it's the showers in the morning. My mind, I'm an overthinker, but I think that that's amazing, because I don't think I could do this job well if I wasn't constantly going. And it's just improving. It's improving on everything. It's important to me. I'm on the SUSCOMP committee, and I'm also on the dining committee, and it's making both of these committees happy also. So our opinions paper is now used on the Goose. So I found a template. These are the things these ideas, these innovations. So you can see, please, I want everyone's opinion, because we're repurposing all of our menus with with opinions. You want to say something to me?
I'm very impressed. First of all, we are from Argentina, my wife and I. So we grew up eating beef twice a day and wine. So, but
You're in perfect shape.
yeah, well, we changed over the years. So we are not doing that nearly, maybe once or twice a week.
Right.
And we are still alive, we survived that. And I'm really impressed. I don't know how you do that in terms of reusing. I mean, my wife is totally absorbed in reusing things. You wouldn't imagine the things that get recycled second and third time, okay? And so we barely throw away anything. Even the pineapple skins, we don't throw away. She makes it into a drink.
Nice.
Yeah, cold drink. But so I'm really impressed. How can you do that in not a private house scale? Because that's probably another degree of complexity. Not one thing is you do it at home and
It's ordering correctly. So the most important is what we're bringing in. So we had to organize our order system. There wasn't any. A lot of people, especially the dining committee, still want to be able to not have reservations. Reservations help me. You have to understand, if you go to any restaurant in town, they have the same menu every day. And they do like a weekly special, maybe, or today's special, and that's usually because they're trying to get rid of something from the week. And they make it. It doesn't mean it's not amazing, because repurposing is a great thing. I'm all for leftovers. Here, there's like 2 items besides your grill items. That is like your weekly items. So you'll have like that teriyaki stir fry all the time for the week. Other than that, you are getting new menus every day. So they are prepping and making new food every day. That is unlike any restaurant that you're gonna go to, anywhere. But it's your home, so we still get tired of them. It just happens, So the whole idea is it's organizing your ordering system so you're not ordering too much. It's using pre-production sheets so you see what you're prepping out. It's using your post-production sheets to see so we use the word selling, but what we're selling, and then what is left over. And then cooking in small batches in comparison to large batches, so the reheat process isn't being used. So I can take those black beans and put them into a soup tomorrow. But if I heated all of those black beans, I would have to throw them away. So this is education also. And that's where my background from Vassar really helped us, because working in a hospital, it's very, stringent rules.
So one of the other areas of the Sustainability Committee is in plastic reuse. As you know, when working with your predecessor, we developed a recycling of the three-hole, pardon the expression, three-hole plastic containers, and that's gone amazingly well. And I think many of you here, most of you are still contributing to that process. We've expanded that now to 8 cartons, empty 8 cartons. So this is another area where the world as a whole is suffering from unbelievable plethora of unused, single-use plastics, and it's polluting the world rather, and what, if anything, is being done on that topic
Okay, yeah, I can talk
beyond
about it.
what we've already done.
So what we found right away is, you know those to-go containers that you have, the brown ones in your IO, okay? They're not compostable. They're made out of compostable material. So that's the difference. And they have a lined plastic in them, so that's why they can't be composted. So we're almost there, because we should be happy that we're buying a product that is used from compostable material. That they are repurposed, it's a repurposed material.
You're talking about the boxes.
Yes, the brown boxes, but they're not compostable. So we're looking, so with that, I touched upon the cooler, which is called an Airstream cooler because it's an open cooler in the pub area where we're repurposing the food. There's an initiative Sodexo has, and it's called Simply to Go, because this is a big initiative. This cold food that you can go home and heat up, and it's like having someone cooked in your house all day. They have a Simply to Go products, and they have compostable containers. So we are in the midst of ordering all of that. That cooler is gonna be completely revamped. But I just touched upon it because I want you to start seeing it and paying attention to it. Right now you just have soups, salads, yogurt parfaits, and some meals from the day before discounted. But that's gonna be, we're gonna have completely, compostable containers highlighting our Simply to Go items.
That would be fantastic. Any other questions? Oh my goodness, oh, there's one back there.
I will never watch this interview.
I was just wondering, this might be expensive, but considering putting in an automated order system that they have in restaurants, so that people don't have to run back and forth to the kitchen to put the order in, to get the order, with an automated order system that shows up at the chef's station as it's entered, and it might be easier to generate billing as well. We hook up to the billing system.
Okay, so let me understand it. Automated order system. So are you ordering before you're coming down into the dining room, or are you mean for takeout?
No, just at tables.
That's what I mean. So at tables, so there's no taking the orders at the tables. You're doing it automated.
A lot of restaurants have like an iPad.
I know, like I've been to.
Come to the table, say what would you like?
Right.
And they can fill out the chair number, they can fill out the.
Yep. Okay, so I'll let you know that
They don't have to run to the kitchen.
I see Bill over here. I'm smiling at you is because we just had a call 2 weeks ago on Friday. So the system that we have, it's called Horizon. It was here like 13, 14 years ago. It was the original system. They call it POS, point of service system. The POS system that we currently have is archaic. Archaic. Old. Old is not bad, but it's older.
We're all in our feet.
The level of service that we do here, it's never really been a problem. But I was just on a call 2 weeks ago because Sodexo works with another company and I got pricing for the iPad system. So the servers would come to the tables with the iPads, take your orders in real time at your tables. Now, as you know, when they go to that POS system, it goes to the kitchen. So it's already there. They're not going to the kitchen and giving your orders. No. Yeah, but they write it down and put it in the touch system. So we're just gonna eliminate that step by giving them iPads. My staff is out here, guys, you have no idea. They just think this is
So this
fun.
is something we will expect in the near future.
Well, we have to talk to Michelle about it because with all of modern technological advancements, they cost money. So it's gotta be if that level of service is necessary. So right now, your staff, wait staff, is taking your orders at the table. They're turning around and taking 10 steps to those computers that you see them, and they're typing your order, putting your name in. They can't even put the order in until they put your name in. They put your order in, they type it in, and then it goes right to the kitchen. And the kitchen gets it, there's a printer in the kitchen, and it gets printed for them. So that's the system now. So we are looking at a system where they would have the iPads at the tables, and so it would be automatically from the table into the kitchen.
Which one of you, can you stop arguing with each other and decide who gets that?
I think she.
All right. Betsy has a question and she's not getting up for me.
Oh, yeah, I'm still here.
No, Betsy can ask, come
Oh,
on.
okay.
Would you please talk some about the equipment in the kitchen, the condition of it, what's happening and what's going to happen and with all the
Okay, yeah.
internet?
Okay, we can definitely talk about this. I think Michelle touched on a few things yesterday when she was at the Q&A about renovations and expansions and the fact that the building is now, 13, 14? Okay, so 13, but I'm assuming the plans were at 15 years when they started the plans. Obviously, we've been working, right? Right, so there's some of the stuff in the kitchen has been replaced, needs replacement. When I got here, one of the ovens was down. The freezer wasn't closing correctly.
No toaster.
Well, we have it now.
I know.
You bet we do. We had Eggs Benedict last Sunday. It's the little things. Yeah, so we had a George Foreman at the health center. There's a lot of things going on. No, we don't. The point is that we have 2 steam wells that are down. So we found a better company, a service company. They've been excellent. That was the first thing that Will did. He brought in a better service company. So the freezer has been fixed. Both of the ovens are fully functional. What the problem is that and everything is always because of COVID, and I really don't personally use that excuse, but a lot of companies do. So, we had a garbage compactor that we have had on order since October, and it is back ordered. I have floor tiles that we have ordered numerous times because they're cracked and they're back ordered. We have warming wells, so that's where on the line when those tickets are printed, there's items in front of the cooks like a table, and there's long wells, hot wells they call them, and rectangles, and that's where you put your sauces, your mashed potatoes, things like that, things that are already pre-cooked. 2 of our wells are down. So we have the parts for the wells are back ordered. And that's all predating me. They've been back ordered. So we did workarounds for that. So we actually bought 2 commercial wells. And that's another thing because we have certain compliance. I can't have a George Foreman. I can't allow you to take a toaster from your apartment and come bring it to me so you can have toast. I have to have commercial products. I had people who offered their toasters, I was told. So I had to buy commercial, and just a 2-slice toaster is $300 because it's commercial. 2-slice toaster, $300. You can't even fathom the reality of the world. You all know. So the freezer's fixed, ovens are fixed, we have a great service company. What Betsy's kept talking about is 2 things. 1, there are definitely things that need to be revamped, bought new. We need new. We're working on a list, a budget of the things that I want to be replaced because they're just not functioning and they've been fixed so many times that it's just not operable anymore. We're working on that list. There's 2 sides to that. Sodexo is talking about gifting some of that. We have to have a conversation with Michelle. And also just putting it in the budget for next year so we can get all these things purchased. So there's what?
Michelle's wish list.
Right. So we have a wish list. Absolutely. A lot of things have been fixed already though since I've been here.
I think we have time for one more question. Who gets the last question? There she is, the winner.
You gonna come up to me?
Portion control
You've talked about this.
from person to person to person. I ate dinner last week with 3 other women. We all ordered the same thing. I had a large piece of, forgive me, pork meat, and they each ordered that. They have little tiny pieces.
Yeah, you had already touched upon this with me. You and I spoke about it, yes. So after we had our conversation, it was also brought to my attention, takeout sometimes isn't all consistent, the portions. So I have a chef's meeting. So you and I spoke last week. I brought it to I have an interim exec chef. Will is here as my interim exec chef. And my one chef manager fractured his shoulder. So he's been out. Oh yeah, every time, you have no idea. That being said, I have a conversation with all of my cooks about consistency. My big thing is consistency, okay? It needs to be taste the same and look the same every time. And what it is I have a bunch of chefs who have a bunch of talent who think that they can do it better.
So we found that your soups are generally very good, and we often order any of the vegetarian soups, but they come in little containers, so we order 3.
Okay.
This time we ordered 3, and they were less than half full.
Well,
Are we going to start having to order 5?
Nope, that's the container issues. So this was brought to my attention. I had 2 feedback cards about the container issues. So there's 2 separate containers that you guys have seen. It's a smaller all-white container, and then there's a larger container. So this was another conversation because I get all of your feedback cards. So what happens is once you write me in your feedback, your suggestions, which is at the hostess stand currently, I look them over, I make comments, I send them to Michelle. Michelle comments, she sends them back to me. And then I do corrective action with my staff. So it was brought to my attention that the soups weren't filled to the top. We give 6-ounce ladles of soup. That is the portion size of soup. But if it's if it's an 8-ounce container or a 10-ounce container, it's gonna look smaller. But if you have the smaller container and you fill it to the top, you're not gonna complain. So when I went to my chefs and I said, as a consumer, you give me a half of container and you're at full. Whatever container you give me needs to be filled at the top, because that's our fault, because we purchased the wrong container, or they've substituted, sometimes they substitute containers for us, then we're gonna take that 2-ounce loss, and we're gonna fill it to the top. So that conversation just happened last week, because I had 2, and this is why it's so valuable to give me your positive and your negative feedback, because these are the things that I can work on, because as a consumer, I want the container filled. The chef was using a 6-ounce ladle and doing the criteria that he's supposed to, but the container was the issue.
Connor, do we have a time limit?
Yes, there's Dulcimers in here. Dulcimers is in here afterwards, so.
Okay, we should probably wind it up.
Connor, can we be done? I'm
So-
kidding, I could do this all day.
So thank you very, very much, Amy. This has been an extraordinary wonderful display, and we look forward to even better things in the future.
Yeah, more to come. I've only been here 2 months. Can you imagine 6 months?